for Beth, and some of there was the miscue that Zoom was last week. We thought she was gonna be here this week, so.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so open session public meetings are subject to being recorded. Your image and voice will be recorded. I don't know if we're being recorded, but.
I think we're being recorded because the microphone is right there.
Okay.
Oh,
And the
Alright.
camera is right up there, and there,
and they're
there.
all green.
I don't, yeah.
All right.
Yep.
First thing I had up was minutes.
Mhm.
I don't see the June minutes up on.
I just posted them like 20 minutes ago.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So all in favor of the minutes from June
Aye.
26th?
Aye.
Go read them. If there are any questions, then
We'll
we
edit
will.
them later on.
We'll edit
Yeah.
them later on. Okay, any update from Metro West? other
Not
than the
since our meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then we have a CMRPC update.
Beth, just call my phone and we put her on speaker.
If you want, yeah, that works for me. As long as we can hear her, that's
Yep,
fine.
Yep.
You all saw the email that came in from Jasifa?
Yes.
Okay. I'm probably not gonna read it. I can put it
Yeah.
up on the website
Yeah.
as a document. Does anybody have any comments on, the things that Jasifa is doing? Do you have any suggestions for her to do things? Because, I know we'll go into the meeting that we were at a little bit, but
Yeah.
basically, we need to give Jasifa concrete tasks to do,
Okay.
I think. And there's some thought of having the planning board give her some tasks, because we don't
Yeah.
think we're utilizing her enough.
I agree. And
Can she do, sorry, go on.
I was about to say, I have Beth on cell phone on the center of the table, so.
Yes. Hello.
Hey, Beth.
Hi, sorry about the confusion. I thought I was still using the link we set up last time, but whatever.
No,
Yeah.
I thought you were back, so.
No, I'm
Not
gone
so
for
much
another
yet.
2 weeks.
Oh, okay. All right. So can she do what? Do you have a suggestion, or?
We had talked about like fillable PDFs and things like that to help streamline the application process, or even just the initial process
What
for
app?
Probably-
for the down payment assistance program.
That will actually be going through Metro West, and we will be paying them plenty of money to do those things, I believe.
Awesome.
If
Okay.
there
Yep.
is a question, but I think most of the materials will come through Metro West.
Okay.
So I did have a meeting with Metro West and Kristen about the down payment project, program. Did you guys all got I think I sent you over their recommended. It's a little different than the initial one. I don't see any red flags, but if you have those, certainly send them over. Otherwise, I think we should probably
Yep.
talk about going, I don't know if we wanna vote on that tonight or take a little more time, or, and we can vote on it next time. But-
I'm fine with it
Okay.
now. I
Okay.
don't know if there'll be a big competition for other folks to it. Their recommendations or their
No.
tweaks looked.
Yeah,
Very
and
important, yeah.
they're actually doing a program with Westboro, and they're a little bit ahead of us on Westboro, so I think
Yeah.
it's good. They did have some suggestions, I know, on the call about, they think our timeline is too long for reimbursement. They would probably recommend condensing that to like 5 years, because people just don't stay as long as they used to.
Mhm.
So that is
Okay.
something, but that is not something we need to do to just the basic
Right.
MOU. I think we can
Yeah.
tweak those details, and they said the numbers were completely wrong that were on the thing as far as the income levels that
Hmm.
should be. So that would be another thing that we would discuss further out,
Yep.
is what those numbers should actually be. But they'll do all that once we decide. I mean, I think they didn't wanna do that before we actually
Right.
signed on and started paying them.
I think if we.
Okay, so the numbers in what we saw
The
are
number-
not actually.
The numbers that Jasifa had pulled, they had no idea where those came from. So they would find the actual numbers or provide the actual numbers for the income levels,
Okay.
which makes sense anyways, and those should be updated regularly.
Right. I thought it looked good. Just one question. question on
Okay.
page 6 of Appendix B. Property hazard insurance, is that something different than homeowners insurance?
I can ask. I can tell you that my impression of Metro West is they really have their act together.
Awesome.
But I will ask them what that is specifically.
It probably is
Yeah, it's probably,
liability,
yeah,
but
the basic housing insurance.
I don't remember how it reads, but.
And then do we wanna, I think we might vote on Metro West tonight with the
Okay.
idea that next month we'll get the list of tweaks and see how we feel about the tweaks, and if they wanna
Okay.
send someone here for it or not, but my guess is we'll likely agree to most of their tweaks.
Okay. So, do you make a motion?
Sure, that's a motion.
Okay.
Second.
Yep,
Okay.
aye.
All in favor of
Aye.
going with Metro West for the down payment program?
Yep.
Aye.
Okay.
Yep,
Okay. I will let them know so we can start moving forward. Let me see if there was anything else. No, I don't think I have anything else on that. So Kate and I went to a meeting with Metro West and CMRPC because both of those contracts sort of came due just out of the blue, and it sort of got dropped on the housing trust. That we were sort of in charge of that process in a way that I don't think any of us were really aware that we were in charge of that process. So the first question that sort of came up was, okay, which of you is doing which things, and why do we need both of you?
Mhm.
So we had a meeting and brought them together. We had Connor from CMRPC, who is Josifa's manager. We had 2 folks from Metro West, and Kristen, our town administrator, was in the room. And I thought it was a really good meeting where we clarified several things. Probably one of the biggest things is Josifa will not be doing the SHI. Metro West will be doing the SHI. They have much more experience in that area, and I think there was a lot of confusion as to how or why she ended up doing it to begin with, because they really,
Right.
they are who we would go to if we had
Mhm.
questions on the SHI. They did the SHI last year.
Mhm.
So the process going forward with the SHI is for Metro West to take care of that. And they do have all of the things, I think, at this point that they need to update that list.
awesome, thank you.
And then just other things, that I had noted, so, Metro West sort of went over the services under the Assabet Regional Housing Consortium. They're sort of a housing planner role fill-in, but no, they will not do the housing production plan. That would be done by CMRPC, but that's another several, maybe 4 years until that would be done again.
Right.
They develop large-scale affordable housing. They will advise us, answer our questions. They won't really do anything on the Habitat project at all. They help with foreclosure prevention, rental assistance. Kristen would be the procurement manager for the Habitat project. They can help with universal deed. I reached out to Bob Blair from Northbrook because they can help with universal deed restrictions, which the Northbrook Village has one that expires right now, and they've done a lot of helping those types of projects. You know, those type of deed restrictions are not put on anymore.
Right.
They're put on in perpetuity. So they can help Northbrook Village if we can sort of get Northbrook Village involved in the process. They can help get that deed so that we don't have to worry about this every so many years.
That'd be great.
They help with income eligibility for buyers, certifying rents, all of those sorts of things. CMRPC described their services as a little more broad, grant writing, public engagement, housing production goals. I personally, we couldn't really come up with a lot for one thing, my thought was the housing production plan, ours is this much of it.
Right,
It's my feeling, and folks may have other, that we would not take on the housing production plan because our part is this much of it.
Right.
It's small. Though a certain individual was trying to encourage us to take on the whole housing
Right.
production plan, cause we have housing in our name, but I don't think that's what our mandate from town meeting
Right.
was. So I would discourage that. I think we have enough on our plate too.
Right.
I think a lot of the ideas for that are coming from other places too,
Yeah,
more so
than
Right.
here,
than
right?
our,
yeah,
Yeah, I think we
Yeah.
have our piece of it, and we should have input on that if we
Mhm.
have it, and those types of things, and I think that would happen. But certainly to run that process or would not, I don't think, fall
Mhm.
under the housing trust. And as far as, CMRPC services, we sort of are on the hook for 3 years with
Mhm.
them, and we should be looking and evaluating and trying to decide, because at the end of those 3 years, we would decide whether or not we needed that role or not. But in the meantime, if there are things that you can think of that, to see if it can do for us, send them over. Also, I noted things like, I think you got her review,
right.
but I give her most of her tasks.
Right.
So they need to make sure that they're including probably the group on that, so that
Yeah.
everybody has a little bit of input on, like, if they send it over to me, I will query and get input from everybody on how they think Josepha's doing, whether we're getting the value we need, because she is supposed to be doing 4 hours of work a week for us, and I don't believe that is happening right now.
No, I don't think we have 4 hours a week of tasks.
I don't think
She
we have the
was on that.
task
Right,
either,
right, right.
yeah,
I
and that was
mean,
the thing,
if she
like,
could focus on the website,
I did mention that,
Yeah.
I had mentioned that to her
that's one
multiple
thing
times.
we do need help with.
The other piece
Yeah.
is, in some respects, which I think we asked, but I think it is, again, the breakdown of the responsibilities of the various housing resources in town.
Yeah,
Us
Mhm.
versus CMRP versus the Assabet Housing Collaborative, at least the housing partnership in town is one less in the mix, but.
yeah, I, once again, I did
Mhm.
try to ask for that, and that is not exactly what
Yeah.
I got, there's a list of resources on the website, which
Right.
is what I got.
Yep. And how successful were you on obtaining that timesheet of hers?
We
of
got-
what work
We got
product she
this,
has?
we got the summary. That was another thing that I had spoken with Connor about, is us getting sort of a, where was
Mhm.
the time for Berlin spent? And I thought the other communities would also appreciate
Yep.
that, and he did seem to be on board with that. I don't think we're quite there
Yep.
as of yet.
Okay.
There is there's a monthly check-in meeting that I have a bad sense of time just because, but I've been trying to get to those, but I don't remember a July one off the top of my head unless it was
Okay.
early.
Should I ask, or you wanna ask?
I'll ask,
You wanna ask?
I'll ask because I'm on
Okay.
that sort of chain that includes, and I'll include you when I ask
Yeah.
about it too. So if there's ever one I can't make, to at least let others here know that someone else can sit in. I find it useful less on her telling of the things that she is doing, but all the towns need to go around and sort of the housing stuff that's going on in their towns.
Mhm.
Okay.
The roundtables help.
Right, just to hear that and a lot more of them are fighting political battles in their town that
Yeah.
we're generally not. Cause I think the loss of the property we had for Habitat, I think was just more oversight than it was sort of a political battle between sides, and.
Yeah.
And so they just hear it, cause some of them are MBTA communities that have to pass things and are worried about that's gonna pass, and some have multi-million-dollar developments going on that we're not
Near.
really talking about.
No.
Yeah, that's the same with the Assabet
Mhm.
consortium,
Mhm.
I don't know if it's the same towns or similar towns, or
It's similar
they
towns, yeah.
overlap a little, but I sit and I feel very small
Yeah.
sometimes, but it's all very interesting, and there's lots of ideas. I mean, there's a lot coming up that I'm hearing about the accessory dwelling unit.
Yep.
That seems to be
Yeah.
maybe a good first step or
Yeah, I think,
gateway into broadening the housing.
I think planning is currently paying somebody to do that,
Right.
though, so all of these,
Right.
educational things aren't necessarily because we actually have hired a professional
Right.
to
Right,
do that, so
yeah.
it's, that's not
Right.
It's kind of
necessarily, that's what I had said, is it's not necessarily applicable to us,
Yeah.
cause we're paying somebody.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Who
Absolutely.
hopefully,
Yeah.
they don't need to be educated, cause they already have that.
Yep.
So how much longer are we obligated with Josefa for now?
I'd imagine it'd be another 2 years.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll find
And-
that sweet spot.
Yep.
But there was
Yeah.
always the intent, my impression from Tim was there was always the intent to sort of like, try it out and try
Yep.
these things out. And if we get a town planner, it's possible that, one of the things that I had also talked about with Kristen is we could potentially use some of the trust money to pay the town planner to do some of these roles.
Yep.
Or these things for the housing trust that we need help with. There'd
Mhm.
still be outside things, like I don't anticipate them ever running a down payment program or any of those things that require that sort of intimate knowledge of how to run those applications. But there may be things that, rather than a CMRPC, we could bring that internal and help to fund that position and just say, we get X number of hours because the
Mhm.
housing trust is paying for X number of hours. And I don't think it would be many.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But that might be another way to look at that down the line. But
Yeah.
for now, and I think it would take
Mhm.
time to get, if she gets that position, to get that up and rolling anyways, so. That's something to sort of keep in the back of everybody's head, there
Mhm.
might be a way to bring that internal to
Yeah, because the
town.
town planner would be going, there are mostly town planners at the meeting I go to.
Right.
Yeah.
So that would
Yeah.
be a
And they
function
could, yeah.
of what they do, and they might make better use of that within their whole scope,
Yeah.
and be more up to speed on a lot of the lingo, cause I spend a lot of the meetings just researching like the acronyms and so
Yeah,
I think
So-
that's, yeah, it would be efficient.
I think it's down the road a bit,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
maybe that's, cause I know there's talk of maybe there's some other places that might be able to be pulled from too, that could sort of conglomerate into a position.
Yeah, I mean, Tim has been our unofficial town planner
right,
for
right.
Yeah.
a long time, and
Yeah.
he's great, but,
Yeah.
It's also volunteer.
I was
volunteer.
gonna say, he doesn't get paid for
Right.
it, so it's cumbersome.
Yep. And, the other thing that happened was, Kate also took Metro West around to see the affordable housing in
Okay.
town, cause they wanted to
Yes.
see, they've heard all of these names and,
Yep.
and all that, so they were eager to kind of visit the
Great.
different spots, and you got them pretty much everywhere, didn't
I
you?
did, yeah, I did. They were very interested in 9 Village Lane, but that was at the end, and I don't think they wanted to park and go and
Yeah.
walk and, so.
Yeah. We did bring them up, though, to.
Mhm, yep. And actually, I had never been down to the Capes,
Yeah.
so that was enlightening.
Mhm.
And what about the research on Gates Pond? Were they interested in any part of researching the viability for?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think they're just interested that an affordable house might be going into town, but they kind of, when I asked if they could help us with that process at
Right.
all, or that, they seemed to be,
Yeah.
no, that's not really
That
our
would
thing.
be
Right.
Habitat.
That would be Habitat. As long as we're discussing that too, I don't know if I had mentioned at the last meeting that, Carolyn from Planning and Conservation had mentioned that the Gates Pond property might be able to be split into 2.
Mhm.
And maybe we could take some of that property off the back and put it into conservation so that the taxes on that property would be less for
Mhm.
whoever. We also talked to Tim about that, when he was here for the CMRPC
Mhm.
Metro West meeting, and they were gonna sort of get together and chat about, he and Carolyn were gonna do that, and I'll remind him that
Good.
he was gonna do that, and cause I was like, what steps do we do next? How do
Right.
we do this? Cause I don't know the process
Mhm.
for
Right,
even
and
how
how do you, right, how do you
how we-
decide where that line is, and how much is enough
Yeah.
for conservation,
I-
but
I-
still enough for housing, and, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think there's surveying and stuff that would
Right.
need to be done, and I'm assuming we would need permissions to do that
Yep.
through planning, zoning, whoever. So that would be sort of the next steps on that. He also mentioned that the Baker Road property might be another, and I haven't looked at what we have on the list that I have yet, but he thought that might be another place to potentially
How
build.
much can we use Jasifa to help sort of figure out those processes, or pester some of those folks to get the next steps done, or?
I think it has to come from us internally. I think
Yeah.
it has to be a conversation with Carolyn, and
Right.
maybe we can invite Carolyn or Tim or whoever to the meeting, or both of them to
Mm.
the meeting to talk to us next month.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also think we should investigate the Baker Road property.
Yeah.
So maybe
I
maybe
think that's
see
one I
if
had been
that-
by, but
I know Carolyn's
looked at
reasonable.
several, so I wanna make sure that that's the one in my head. I feel like that
Yeah.
one, it may be a different one than I have in my head.
Well, but it's also, if we ended up with 2 viable properties, that means potentially next year at town meeting, we can go and ask for some more money to do a second
Mhm.
project.
Yeah. I mean, those are
Yeah.
as many, I think, habitat projects as we could do.
Yeah.
I think that's just a phenomenal.
Yeah.
Are they just single family,
Yeah, for the most
Mhm.
part.
not duplexes at all?
I think
Because
that-
that might be a wonderful thing.
A duplex?
Yes.
I think they've done that sort of thing
I
before
wanna
too, but
Where they sell
Be-
like the 2 halves, or that they sell the whole thing and the
I
person
think-
becomes landlord as well as owner?
No, I would
I
probably.
think they sell the two different families, don't they?
Sell, conduit or,
Yeah.
so,
Just
But-
small rental properties is how some people can make the place affordable for them, is that they get some money on the other side.
that's what
Yeah.
I do, but
I-
yeah.
Yeah.
My first property was a duplex where the tenant paid my mortgage for the most part, and really
Yeah.
helped me through a
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
period of life that money was not easy to come by.
I know, Metro West did bring that up a little bit, and there, at least in my head, there are some concerns about
Oh, yeah,
the optics of giving somebody
right.
an additional income,
Exactly, yeah.
source. I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
Yeah,
More than a leg up.
right.
Yeah.
An investment opportunity is kinda,
That might be
Yeah.
further than we wanna
Yeah,
go, but
that's
I
why
mean,
I'm
not,
thinking
I'm personally not opposed, I
more-
just think.
I agree,
we
the
can
optics
wind
don't
up-
look great. It's like, oh, we
Yeah.
can't help this low income person out too much, it's.
Well,
I know.
investment
I
is
know.
a different thing.
It is, and it takes
It's
also a
one thing
different
to have
skill
a
set. If
home,
you
it's
screw it
another
up, you
thing
screw it
to-
up for yourself
Mhm.
and the
Yeah,
other family,
right,
so.
right,
Yeah.
that's that too, but, I don't know.
What else do we have?
Is our financial meeting coming up?
Yes, what that is, we are not actually set up to spend the money yet. We need, June and the treasurer to define how our money is going to be held, as a trust, because it is different, it should be the same as the other trust, I would
Right.
think, but it is different than what you would do with your average, like, CPA grant. Because we are a trust, it goes into the trust, it stays in the trust no matter what, it will never go back to CPA.
Mm.
You know, and the paperwork is different and all of those different pieces, and June didn't, she had to do some research to figure out exactly how to do that. It's kind of the next step
Mhm.
as a trust to get our financials in order, so that'll be Kristen and June and the treasurer and me, and if one other person wants to come, that's fine. I did not post a whole meeting for that, it's in the middle of the day.
When is it?
It's August 6th at,
I can look it up.
yeah,
I was wondering, it's middle day?
it's middle of the day.
And that's next Tuesday?
I think so, and I have that on my email and my
I
phone.
might be able to make that.
Okay.
So, I'll check it out. We're still a little bit in limbo that way, but not that we have like,
Yeah.
you
Well,
know,
it's just,
not burning a hole in our pocket,
You know,
but-
Right.
setting up all of the pieces of the
Right.
trust is kind of an ongoing thing until we, you
Right.
know, it's just, we didn't have to worry about it, we didn't have any money.
Yeah.
Right.
And now we're getting to the point where we
Yep.
you know, have money and we may want to spend some money, so
Mhm.
now we have to do the
Mhm.
next thing. And we wanna make sure we do it
Right.
correctly, so that we don't end up backing it
Right.
out and, yeah.
Right, it might be worthy at some meeting soon to go over, because we have other little funds of money too, and reminding ourselves
And
what's in those
that's
funds and what those,
also,
yeah.
that's also on the
Right.
agenda for this one, is getting
Yeah.
those
Housing
extra monies,
partnership
all of
money.
it into
Yeah.
the trust.
Right, the money that's come from, projects that have been done in town, 40Bs that have been sold, put money into a fund that we can spend as well.
And the housing authority too,
Right, right.
had money in it, so
Oh.
that also needs to
Right.
go over to the housing trust and be put in the trust. And we need to figure out how to get, what has to happen for
Right.
all those pieces to go where they belong.
Right.
Because it is, the housing trust is the appropriate place for those funds, that was the intent of those funds, so we need to
And
make
each
sure
one
they
has
all,
different, slightly different restrictions on them, so.
yeah. And it'd be nice for us as a
Mhm.
group to have that information in hand and know, I mean,
Mhm.
CPA, obviously, we know that, but the other pieces, we don't know exactly.
Right.
Cause I think the housing authority was mitigation funds, right?
Mhm.
And then the other is funds from, things coming out of 40B or
Right.
those types of
Yeah,
penalties.
there's 3 or 4 different sort of small funds that have come through.
Yeah, so that is another thing that is on the agenda for that, is sort of figuring all that stuff out. Okay, anything else that anybody has, or any questions or comments, or?
No?
Okay, Beth, you got anything?
I do not, that's not entirely true. I am in the process of connecting with the, CPA committee. The last, there were shenanigans around the last meeting, but that was just administrative stuff. The next meeting with, actual stuff happening will be the 20th of August, and I'm planning on attending, and Maureen now knows that.
Excellent.
Which will make things easier.
I should have, had I been thinking, I would have given you her information to start, cause she's really on the ball normally.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Anything else? We got in, we looked at the analytics too, or I did. Did you get in?
Yes, I did get in and saw our 10 hits. I've got to figure out more about how to
We've
use
had
Google
10 hits
Analytics,
on
is
the
what I'm looking
page.
at.
Oh.
In the last month.
In the
So,
last month.
Yeah.
Is it technically the 3rd of July to the 28th of July.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, slightly less than a month.
And then 9 Village Lane, is that auction still happening, like tomorrow? Maybe?
Always maybe, but I doubt it.
Okay.
I believe the owner has made arrangements with their lender to
Figure it out.
figure it out.
Uh-huh.
I think the lender is sort of keeping their options open if the agreement doesn't work, but that the auctions are unlikely happening. I also learned that the trustees up there at Village, at Mosaic, tend to get letters from the bank about things that they know are not happening anymore, because the paper trail is weeks old of data, and so, when I last talked to them, they knew of no active auction date that was gonna happen.
Okay. Just curious.
Okay.
Because Stephanie did tell me that
Yeah.
remains.
Right.
That even through foreclosure, which I don't know how that would be, but through
That's true.
Because
foreclosure,
there's
it
a
remains
deed
affordable.
restriction, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
except that we lost one through an auction already up there.
I mean, I
Yeah.
happen to
Yep.
She did
agree
seem
with
to
that,
think,
but-
and I'm curious whether that was, cause she
Uh,
seemed to think that no.
Well, except that was the difference. This is a foreclosure auction. The other one really was the developer bankruptcy auction.
Huh.
And so it could have been because it was a different type of auction.
Bankruptcy does have special rules, but.
Right,
Well, but on that initial one, there was still a process. Both the town and the state had to sign off
yeah, right,
on
Okay.
the loss of them as
Right,
40B
right.
properties.
right.
And just-
Yeah, but
Yeah.
if I remember
Okay.
correctly, we had no choice but to sign
In
off.
some respects,
It
at that
wasn't
point,
a-
yeah.
Right.
It was more a,
It would sit.
by the
empty and
way,
have Rob
sign
back,
this
right,
piece of
right,
paper.
Yep,
Yeah.
Okay.
you're right, and both of those, there were steps and votes that had to be taken, which we've not done in but 9 Village Lane,
All right, so the assumption is it
That-
will remain.
right.
yeah.
Assumption and hope.
Yep.
And we can, you know, the nice thing about Metro West is if we find ourselves having questions about that or
Yeah.
getting into that position,
They can
then
get
we pull
involved.
Metro West in and say, help.
Good.
I'll try to remember I'll at least email the trustees up there, not necessarily about 9 Village Lane, but there are 40Bs up there, some of which, I think owners might be looking at selling in the next year or so. That there are resources available to help those get sold,
Mhm.
for someone who wants to sell them.
Hmm.
If there's a more traditional process where I'm like, hey, I know I'm moving in 6 months, I'd like to try to sell this property and help to make sure that it gets transferred to another 40B person.
Yeah.
And are those types of things that could be listed on our webpage, like?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know,
Well, and the down
Affordable
payment,
unit,
and the down payment assistance
yeah.
could go for it, so we could let whoever the real estate agent is listing it, that says,
Mhm.
hey, there's down payment assistance for these type of things, cause that's been one
Yeah.
of the barriers is, you know, these people don't have a lot of money sitting in the bank
Yeah.
to qualify for these things, so.
Yeah, and absolutely, when we get that running, we're gonna wanna, as
Yeah.
many real estate agents in town as we can, we're gonna wanna
Right.
make sure they're aware. I would imagine Metro West will help with that also.
Okay, sounds good.
Anything else, guys?
No?
Yeah,
All right.
Good.
All in favor to adjourn?
Aye,
Hi.
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 yay.
Told